You might have heard of the Pygmalion Effect, but do you know where that term originated from? It might surprise you that the psychological term came from a story in Greek/Roman mythology. Let's take a look at said story and how it correlates to the Pygmalion Effect. Pygmalion was the name of a sculptor that lived in Cyprus. Some said that he was a king, some didn't really specify. What all the storytellers agreed upon was that Pygmalion was a great sculptor. Actually, great might not even cut it. He was a sculptor who dedicated his entire life to his craft. Suffice to say that most of his creations are masterpieces deserving of a spot in the most renowned museums. One day, Pygmalion saw a group of women, the Propitides, engaging in courtesan work. A little backstory, this group of people denied the sovereignty and divinity of the goddess Venus, which of course angered the goddess. In retaliation, she instilled an inappropriate desire in all the females, driving them to that line of work. Back to Pygmalion, as he saw these women offering themselves on the street, he was appalled by their act. That, and being a devout follower of Venus, prompted Pygmalion to denounce all women, saying that he won't ever fall in love and will remain celibate. This made him pour more and more of his focus into his art. The statues Pygmalion made were breathtaking and they all had a lifelike quality to them. With each new statue he sculpted, the semblance to real life that his works bear also grew. At the peak of his craft, Pygmalion finally made an ivory statue of a woman so beautiful, so lifelike that he fell in love with his own creation. Now, a sort of love towards your own creation is normal, but this wasn't the kind of love Pygmalion had for his ivory beauty. It was the romantic kind of love. After the statue's completion, Pygmalion would often kiss it, caress it, and do other inappropriate stuff to the statue. But he loved it with all his heart. As the days went by, his longing and love for his ivory lady only grew deeper and perhaps unhealthier. Time went by and Venus's festival day finally came. Being a devout worshipper of Venus, Pygmalion went to her temple and celebrated with other fellow believers. You might think that it's weird for Pygmalion to believe in Venus and be celibate, but in Greek/Roman mythology, Venus was also the goddess of beauty, so she was also the patron goddess of everything beautiful, including his works of art. While he was celebrating, his mind kept wandering back to his ivory lady back home, and how he wished that he had someone as perfect as his creation to call a partner. In a state of longing and perhaps inebriation, he went to the temple's altar when nobody was around and whispered a secret wish to Venus. He wished that his burning desire would be quenched by a chance meeting with someone who bears a physical resemblance to his ivory lady, for his heart can no longer bear his growing sense of longing. He prayed that his desire be realized so the suffering of his heart might be ended. Now, if you've watched our video on Aphrodite, you'll remember that this is one of the very few instances where a goddess didn't do something that's self-serving or had a hidden agenda, but simply out of her benevolence. Venus saw that Pygmalion was one of her most devout followers and worshippers, and she saw the love he had for his creation. How could she say no to that? Out of the goodness of her heart, Venus blessed poor Pygmalion and made his desires come true. But at that moment, Pygmalion didn't feel anything and went back to his home, his heart still aching for his perfect lady. As he went inside, he did what he always does when he got home. He closed his eyes and kissed the statue. Usually he'd be met with smooth, carved ivory, but this time he felt that it was soft. Confused, he kissed it again, and as he opened his eyes, he was surprised to find that his statue had become flesh. There, in his studio, stood the woman of Pygmalion's dreams, alive, breathing, and very much real. He knew then and there that Venus had granted his wish by turning his ivory statue to life. He hadn't imagined that Venus would listen to his earnest plea, let alone realizing it in such a way. Needless to say, he was ecstatic, euphoric even, to find that his deep longing for his perfect partner had been realized in the truest sense. Pygmalion then named her Galatea, meaning she who is milk white, for she was once ivory and now she's flesh. Pygmalion happily married Galatea and lived the rest of his life together with her. They were even blessed with a child by Venus, which he named Paphos. Some versions say that Paphos was a girl, some others say that Paphos was a boy and that they had another child, a little girl named Metharm. Bottom line is, Pygmalion lived his life happily with his family. It's one of those rare stories where it doesn't end in tragedy. So, that's where our story ends, but what's it got to do with the Pygmalion Effect? Simply put, the Pygmalion Effect says that higher expectation of someone often makes them do a better job. But the opposite happens when lower expectation is applied. They do a less stellar job instead. This correlates to the story in the way that Pygmalion so wished his creation would come to life that it manifested and actually turned to a living human. Honestly, I'd say it's a very loose connection, but now you know where the term comes from.